There it is. There we go. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to day 3 of the Autism and Neurodiversity Workplace Masterclass for the retail industry. If you've been with us for the last few days, hope you've learned a few things, picked up some tips, which have been useful for your business and also your personal life as well. So we're going to get going on day 3. We're going to look at different neurodiverse conditions today and how they affect individuals with the conditions, strengths they bring to the table, struggles as well. Next slide, please. So, you may be joining us live on Facebook. You may be watching the repeat. So I don't know if you can hear a bit of background noise. Don't know why. So I can hear something here. Let me just double check this. Oh, can't hear anything in now. Hopefully it'll be alright. So yeah, you might be joining us live on Facebook, watching the repeat, or listening on our YouTube channel. So hello to everyone. If you want to comment in the chat, say where you're from, what company you represent, or just your name, say hello. Feel free to do so. Next slide. So the key points from day 2, I'm just going to quickly recap that, whether you were here or not, because there's some very valid points here. A lot of autistic people aren't applying for jobs even if they actually want the job. There's various reasons for that. Could be the application process, actually interviewing, or the lack of social skills potentially, some of the company policies they might not agree with, and an environment that doesn't fit their unique skill set. So a few small changes can make a big difference to the employees and your business. So if you've got happier employees, the well-being is good, they're being more productive because they're happy and they're turning up for work, they don't have to be off mentally ill or physically ill because of being stressed or not appreciated. As a result of that, your business income will benefit, your company income. Next slide. So we're moving on to the different neurodiverse conditions. So I can hear some background noise here. Seems to whenever I speak. There we go. It must be just me hearing it. They're not voices in my head, don't worry. Although I do get a lot of those. So what is ADHD? That's the first one we're looking at. So attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is a condition or different brain wiring or disorder, we'll get onto that in a minute, that includes symptoms such as inattentiveness, hyperactivity and impulsiveness. There's 2 main types of ADHD. One is the inattentive side of it, also referred to as attention deficit disorder. There's also hyperactivity and impulsiveness, the ADHD. Some people have a mixture. I've got a mixture of both. So part of me sort of daydreams, which fits in more the inattentive side. Then the impulses and the hyperactivity side, I've got a bit of that as well. So sort of fidgeting and wanting to do things. I want to do a million things at once, not literally. I want to do at least 5 or 6 different things at any given time, which can get tiring, frustrating, but it can also be amazing at the same time. So, is it a disorder similar to what we spoke about with autism previously? There are a lot of people with ADHD that don't subscribe to it being a disorder, even though it's in the name. The word disorder isn't a nice name. Disorderly, out of sync, not right, not correct. It's disordered. A lot of people don't like that. Obviously, the parts of our brain, the ADHD brain, that can be very frustrating and stuff, but there are really good things, good aspects to having ADHD as well. So is it a disorder? I do believe disorder will be dropped from autism Whether it will be from ADHD, maybe it might take years to do that. I do think that will happen at some point. So next slide. So we're going to look at the characteristics of ADHD. Again, this is not an extensive list. Not everyone with ADHD has every single one of these. These are just common characteristics of a lot of people with ADHD. So, short attention span and difficulty listening, particularly if it's not something they're interested in. Now, a lot of people say, well, I don't listen to things if I'm not interested in it. Well, a lot of people do. They have higher or lower tolerant levels, whichever is the right phrasing for that. They're better tolerant levels of listening to people when they don't really want to, whereas ADHD, it physically hurts you to concentrate at times and to listen to things you're not interested in, particularly if they don't make any sense, if they're like, oh, they're talking nonsense. Constantly fidgeting and being restless, a common thing with a lot of people with ADHD. You're wanting to be on the go all the time. Sometimes acting without thinking. That can happen with ADHD. I would say a caveat for a lot of these things is, and just so I'm not repeating myself because I've done this earlier, with all these symptoms or characteristics, if they're ADHD but also are autistic or have dyspraxia or something else, this can be slightly different or manifest in different ways. Like there's sometimes acting without thinking. That's not really an autistic thing unless you're really angry or you're in an anxious state. Usually you do think clearly, whereas ADHD can be more like that. But if you've got both, or you are both, that is where it can be random, hit and miss, where sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Unorganised and struggle to stay on task. That's a big thing with ADHD. Massive struggles with a lot of people with ADHD on that. Disorganised chaos. It's how we can say it really. Sometimes organised chaos, that's where you hit that sweet spot. Easily bored and distracted. Again, it hurts when people don't, if you haven't got ADHD or you've not studied it or you don't listen to people when you're telling these things, it's really hard when you are bored and distracted. It's like, don't get distracted. There's no one here, I'm just talking to myself or to you, but yeah, it is really hard. Like people say, well, you've just got to try and listen, you just got to try more, and it just doesn't work like that. You can force yourself to put more effort in, but it drains you, and you lose out somewhere, because if you put more effort there, then you've used your energy reserves up later on, and then they'll be like, well, why aren't you doing such and such? It's like, because I'm knackered from listening to you boring me about stuff, and it's like, yeah, it's hard. We're not always that blunt. I don't say that people are boring. Sometimes I do, but if I know them that well, if I know them really well, I probably will do. Otherwise, I probably won't, because I've got empathy, which autistic people do have, believe it or not. Talks quickly, likes to be on the go. Again, if you've got other conditions that can affect that, make you slower or whatever. ADHD doesn't always have to be on the go physically, that can be mentally, which is a good thing to point out. So even if you sat still for a bit, you might be thinking about something or thinking about 5 different things at once. So I was just thinking about the cursor getting in the way there. There we go, it's gone out of the way. So yeah, you don't have to be physically on the go, it can mentally or both. Next slide. So some other characteristics of ADHD: may make careless mistakes. Common thing with ADHD, again, if you've got other conditions, it might be different or be presented differently. So yeah, careless mistakes, because they just wanted to get it done quickly, they're impatient, they just want to get on with it, and then they're more prone to making mistakes. Whereas autism tends to be more measured if you've not got ADHD as well. Money struggles is a big one with ADHD. A lot of them impulse buy, and they see something they want, they buy it. And they could say, well, everyone does that, or most of it. it's the extreme. With all these things, you might say, well, I do that myself. I've not got this ADHD or whatever. It's the extremes of it and the amount of symptoms or characteristics. So yeah, impulse buying can be one of them. Planning the money. I know some ADHD people, when as soon as they get paid, it's like, well, I've got all this money now, so I'll just spend it all in one go. And it's like, I haven't got any money for the rest of the month. Again, a neurotypical can do that, but with ADHD, some people with ADHD, it can be extreme. Difficulty following through with tasks because you've got loads of different ideas, people pulling you in different directions. You want to do so much you want to do. You can then struggle to finish tasks before you move on to another one. Forgetfulness and struggles with daily tasks. What was I going to say then? Yeah, you can struggle with that. So forgetting what you're meant to be doing. There you go. Short-term memory issues, massive one. For some people with ADHD, literally forgetting what you were saying 5 seconds ago. And again, I know a lot of people say, well, I do that as well, but it is a big thing with ADHD. Walking upstairs. Again, it's not solely exclusive to ADHD, but you can walk upstairs, get up to the top of the stairs, forget what you were going for. That is a regular occurrence for myself. Wanting to do everything at once. We've lost him a bit off the screen, it'll be fine. So yeah, want to do everything at once, and sort of, I'm trying to remember what those words said at the bottom. It'll be fine. Want to do everything at once. Yeah, just being impatient, sort of getting frustrated, annoyed at it all. Next slide. Might have a few of these that go off the screen, just thinking about it now. What's using memory skills here? Motivation, drive and determination. So these are strengths that can be associated with ADHD, and how we apply it to the retail industry as well. So it can inspire others. If you've got someone who's determined, no matter what role it is, it can inspire others. Set high targets for themselves and for others, which can lead into leadership skills. People skills, they may be more sociable and energetic with customers. Now the caveat with that is, if you're autistic or you've got an anxiety disorder, they may not be as sociable. But if they've just got ADHD, keyword just, I'm not saying like, oh, they've only just got it, they can often bring a drive, a passion, energy to it as well. Passion and hyper focus. With ADHD people, it's often a case of having to love what you do. They're putting the hard work, and success will come from that. If they're not interested at all, then you can forget it in a lot of cases. Hyper focus, you may not have come across that term. It's where you're intensely focused on something you like doing, a topic, an activity, whatever it is. It's something you really want to do, you're passionate about. Living in the moment, it can help put long-term plans into perspective. So a lot of companies will plan for 5 years, 10 years, whatever. You could be dead next week. So it's like, a lot of people with ADHD can appreciate what's going on right there and then, and not think, well, I'll do that in a year's time, or it might be a few years before I do that. And that isn't to say not to plan for long term and just only plan from day to day. That's not what I'm saying. It's having that balance there. Entrepreneurism, a lot of people with ADHD, in fact there's some figures somewhere that say there's a strong link between entrepreneurs and ADHD. Massive asset to any business, coming up with ideas and being innovative, however you say that, probably the first one. Creativity and outside the box thinkers. They might come up with different promotional displays that people won't think of, different ways to organise your stock, for things to draw the customers in, grab the attention. That could be a good thing with that one. Next bit, please. Some of the struggles which can apply to the retail industry. Careless mistakes. Not everyone with ADHD will do this. Now, if they're autistic as well, they're more likely to be more balanced. For example, they may misplace items in the warehouse or stock or something like that. So just giving them support, reminding them what they need to be doing. Getting bored, sort of doing repetitive actions, it may be hard for them. You know, if you're in the store, could they do a bit of time on the tills, a bit of time stacking the shelves, liaising with customers? Do they have to do the same thing all day, every day? Because that might be too much repetition for them, which can be the opposite to autism in some senses. Some autistic people want to do the same thing every day. With ADHD, it can often be the opposite. Frustration, getting angry at themselves. If they set, there's a lot of perfectionism involved with ADHD. They may set high standards, expect them to be really good at something. They may dislike low standards, so they may get sort of frustrated with others if they're not performing to the standards they set for themselves. If other people are not adhering to that, then they may get really angry at that and sort of, for God's sake, impatient. They may, if you've got an out-of-date system, a till system, stock replenishment system, if you're ordering, if you've got things in auto order, or if you haven't, should I say, if you run out of stock for something and you've not got an auto where you get so much in every so often, or your stock's planned better, and customers are coming up and saying, have you got such and such in stock, and you haven't, they might get impatient with that and sort of be annoyed. Or if the tills aren't working properly, these things that can really annoy them. It could be sometimes seen as arrogant. It may just be that they're confident in their skills, abilities, attributes. They may overtalk. If someone says, are you good at your job? And they might say, yeah, I'm amazing. They might actually be amazing, so it's like, well, they might come across as arrogant, whereas people with anxiety disorders, for example, might often do the opposite. They might downplay it and say, oh no, I'm not very good at that, even if they're really good. The point is, some of them will be arrogant. Every neurotype, so whether you're ADHD, dyslexia, neurotypical, whatever, you're going to get arrogant people and not arrogant people. But not everyone with ADHD is or isn't, but you may be perceived as being arrogant even if you're not. If they're sat at a till, they may struggle sitting still for long periods. There's no way not that I have to, but there's no way I'd ever do a till job, for more reasons than one. But yeah, dyspraxia as well as ADHD, they may struggle sitting for long periods of time. Next bit. So moving on to dyspraxia, and how that can affect your employees and customers within the retail industry. So we'll look at what dyspraxia is first. So the main features of dyspraxia, the main aspects of it, are related to motor skills. So it's movement. So you separate that into fine motor skills and gross motor skills. You can have a mixture of both as well, so similar to ADHD with the ADD and the hyperactivity impulsivity aspect of it. People who have dyspraxia often find the routine tasks of daily life, such as driving, household chores, cooking, cleaning, grooming, difficult. They can also find coping at work is really hard. They usually have a combination of these problems. And I'm going to look at some of these problems in a minute, and what gross fine and gross motor skills are. Next slide. So, gross motor skills and fine motor skills, what the hell are they? So look at gross motor skills. So it includes struggles with balance, posture, integrating the two sides of the body, hand to eye coordination, rhythm, could look clumsy or gait, movement, change of direction if they're running and walking, stopping and starting actions. So some of the things associated with gross motor skills they may struggle with, throwing and catching a ball, driving, because it's big actions, the multitasking, doing different things, riding a bike, carrying certain things they might struggle with. There's lots of different things. In terms of fine motor skills, it's one I struggle with more. It's just related to manual dexterity, dexterity, struggling with that. Two-handed tasks can be Herculean, should I say, for people with dyspraxia with the fine motor skill issues. Find it really hard to do two-handed tasks. Manipulation skills, inadequate grasp. So if you're handwriting, may struggle with that. If you're grabbing the pen, you may grab it for your dear life and sort of have all your fingers right at the bottom of the pen, therefore have an inadequate grasp and not sort of write properly, which can cause issues, particularly with fatigue, because if you're doing something, the technique's not there, you can struggle with that. Grooming activities, some people with dyspraxia struggle like with shaving, looking after themselves in that sort of way. Because again, it's doing, you're looking in the mirror, you're shaving, you've got to follow yourself in the mirror while you're doing it. They may struggle with that. Tying laces is a big one with dyspraxia. Many people never learn or learn later in life. Look at some other pictures there. Ironing can be a big struggle. Manipulating the iron and putting on the right amount of pressure, going in the right sort of patterns and order with it. Using cutlery can be a big issue. A lot of people with dyspraxia just use the fork. It's that two-handed task thing again, using knife, cutting it and using fork at the same time. Some just use the fork, it's easier. Of course, they're seen as rude or childish or ignorant, whatever. That's not the case, it's just that they may really struggle with using it. In terms of retail industry, they might struggle with tills. The speed of thought, trying to press loads of buttons on the tills whilst communicating with something, so doing multitasking. May struggle with certain practical things, using tools and things like that. Putting things into boxes. They might struggle if they've got to fit it in tightly into a box. Carrying a box, go to warehouse, something like that. Next slide. So some of the characteristics of dyspraxia. One thing that people often don't talk about. Well, first off, a lot of people don't even know what dyspraxia is, never even heard of it. I get that a lot of the time. I'll say I've got dyspraxia and I don't know what that is, or I'll say it's because of dyspraxia and they'll just dismiss it and be like, oh, you're just making it up. Can't just make up conditions. Part of that, again, if they even have heard of dyspraxia, they won't realise there's a mental side to it, speech as well. They may talk continuously. They may struggle with organising sequences when they're talking. They may be unable to pronounce certain words. They may struggle with eye movements or following a moving object smoothly. They may lose the place while reading. That's a common one. You're reading a book and you sort of lose your line, lose your thread. I know anyone can do that, but with dyspraxia it can be the extreme. Basically relocating, so looking from one place to another, then finding out where you're meant to be looking. Perception relating to different senses. So they may have poor visual perception. Some of these things are very similar to autism as well. They may be over sensitive to lights or background noises. They may be over or under sensitive to touch. The same with smells. They may really dislike certain smells. Spatial awareness is a massive one for dyspraxia, whether it's gross or fine. Struggling to judge distance, judge space. Some people with dyspraxia just bump into things, whether it's people, objects, cars, all the time. Some people like myself do the opposite and sort of, I do it sometimes to be fair, but sort of give myself too much room. It's like, why is he leaving this massive gap for people to walk through? So you can overcompensate with that and then still struggle. I find if I'm in a tight space, I will bump into something probably. If I've got as much space as I want, then I'll just give myself extra space. Little sense of time. If you're autistic, you may have a really good sense of time, so again, they can counteract. Speed, judging speeds for things. Distance and weight is a massive one. Can really struggle with that. Inadequate sense of direction, constantly getting lost when you're trying to find venues or buildings, whatever. Next slide. excuse me. So thought and memory, difficulty with planning and organising thoughts. A lot of people with dyspraxia have poor short-term memory. Some may have issues with maths or reading. Accuracy problems, big problem in terms of copying others' movements. Can find issues with duplicating that. Concentration issues, similarities, crossover ADHD. May struggle to do, should say more, not more, may struggle to do more than one thing at a time. With ADHD, you want to do a million things. For dyspraxia, it's really hard to do more than one thing. Slow to finish a task. This could be for various reasons, manual dexterity or whatever. Emotion and behaviour, so difficulty listening in large groups. Can't cut out all the, filter out the background noises. Too many people are talking at once and they can't prioritise what to listen to or who to listen to. Can be slow to adapt to things. Can be impulsive like ADHD, and erratic. Could be erratic because they just can't do the thing and someone's forcing them to do it. So yeah, next bit. So some of the dyspraxia strengths that fit in with the retail industry. So leadership is one. People with dyspraxia can often make good leaders, managers, directors. Empathy, they can empathise with customers and colleagues, which can help them be good leaders. If you get a customer in a store, they might be struggling to find something. Some staff might just say, "Oh, it's down bottom end at shop. It's down there." Where some dyspraxia may understand the struggles they're going through because they may struggle with it themselves. So they may say, "I'll come and take you down to it. It's down this aisle here, and then it's in the middle here. It's on that top shelf." So that bit of extra empathy, which is good customer service. Strategy, coming up with new plans and visions. So, if you need to do something different with your shop, you might think, wow, about we look at outside, we paint the store face, the sign, we get that changed, and we look at the image of the store and do something like that. So they can come up with strategies and ways to make your business look more presentable. Problem solving, fitting in with that as well. They might find it easy to shorten the queues. They might think of a system. If we've got a long queue, there's a ways around that. How do we get the best service for the customers? Determination, resilience. So maybe driven to get results, whether that's exceptional customer service or sales, driving in more sales. And they're also more equipped to deal with setbacks better. Enthusiasm and passion. They may care about the work, but they also, as important, they may want to help others. So with the empathy side of it as well, they may want to help others out, pass on the knowledge, bring them along, bring them up rather than trying to push them down, which is what a lot of people would do. Creativity, like with a lot of neurodiverse conditions, they may bring different ideas and outlooks, which can benefit your business. They may notice small details similar to autism, so they might miss, say for example, missing items. If there's stock that's missing, someone else might not pick up on that, or if there's things in the wrong place, might well that needs to go over there. Next slide. Some of the struggles. The struggles dyspraxia can bring on. I'm going to look how it fits in with your industry. So practical tasks. They may struggle to use tills. I touched on earlier. It's a big thing, particularly fine motor skills. Multitasking, doing what I call fiddly things. Pallet trucks, they might struggle navigating those. They might be able to move it, but they might bump into things if they're going down an aisle and the pallet truck just fits down the aisle. They might bump into it, knock things over. Not intentionally bump into people, but they probably prioritise the people and more likely to bump into the shelves. Yes, that could be a problem. Fatigue. Certain activities may tire them, particularly if it's something they're not very good at and they have to over work at it compared to others. affect them physically or mentally. Multitasking, again, they may just need to get one thing done, get it done right. A manager may come up to them and say, I want you to finish stocking these shelves, and I want you to clean and sweep the floor, and then I want you to jump on tills. So I'm right, okay, that's fine, but let me just get this first thing done, and then what's the next bit, and break it down. Locating stock in the store, they may struggle to know where things are, even if they're told. So if I said it's on, it's down back end of store near I don't know, washing up liquid or something, it may take them a while to find that. So think about how you can support them with that. Verbal communication, they may struggle with giving instructions or advice to customers. The customer says, how do you use this saw? They might not be able to use a saw themselves, so they might really struggle with that, so it might be hard. Or does this washing up liquid does it do such and such? I don't know. They might struggle with that. Next slide. So moving on to dyslexia. Compared to dyspraxia, a lot more people have heard of dyslexia. However, there's still a lot of people that don't appreciate what it is. I'd say it's more commonly understood and known than the other things I'm talking about, but there's still a lot of people that don't. I haven't got it myself, so you know what, the other conditions I mentioned, I can't instinctively talk about it. But we're going to look at what it is and how it can affect your employees and customers. So it's a common learning difficulty that can cause problems with reading, writing and spelling. It's a specific learning difficulty, which means it causes problems with certain abilities used for learning, such as reading and writing. Unlike a learning disability, intelligence is not affected. How many dyslexic people are there that were told when they went to told at school they were thick and they weren't very clever, they weren't intelligent, they needed to try harder? That's not the case. Obviously it might be with some people, but with most of them it isn't. It's just that they struggle with reading, they struggle with writing, or need to process things at different rates or different speeds. So some of the characteristics of dyslexia: reading, sort of rereading things. They might have moving or overlapping text. They might lose a place while they're reading, like with ADHD Dyspraxia. Words can get jumbled up, so they can see the words, but they mix them together and they can't process what the words are meant to mean or say. Spelling, similar sounds can cause confusion for them. They may hear different sounds to others and pronunciations, ways words are pronounced. Remembering words, a lot of people sort of pick words up and then they remember how to spell them, whereas they may not have that facility. They have to keep working at it and keep thinking, how do I spell that? Listening, so they might not be able to filter out background noises. They might have problems with note taking. If it's note taking, they've got to read something off a board. It might take them a while to write the words down. They might not be given that time, so they might have to rush it and they'll spell things incorrectly or mix words up, etc. Writing, they might have problems with finding the right word. Again, they might be able to form part of a sentence or think, I could do an extra word here, but I don't know what it's meant to be. They might struggle with organisation. Getting ideas on paper is a big problem they may have. Getting things written down. They may be able to verbally communicate it, for example, but they might struggle getting it down on paper. In terms of memory, you're looking at sequences, dates. They might not find it easy to remember them. They might not memorise the alphabet. They might struggle with, like I say, with the alphabet, with the sequence of that. Phone numbers, they may struggle to remember, although I know a lot of people do, to be fair, but again, it is part of it. Motor skills, a bit similar to dyspraxia in that sense. Coordination, again, handwriting, difficulty copying, purely because they can't process it as quick as others. Next slide, please. Hang on, can you just go back out? So I don't know if I missed a bit off there. Just on Hang on, have we done all this? I'm just trying to think myself now. No, we've done all that apart from that bottom bit maybe. So speed, they might be slower to talk, read or write. They may be deemed as having bad behaviour or being naughty, because one of the reasons for that would be, if they can't read or write to the level of others, or copy to the level of others as well, they may get frustrated. They might think, I'm not doing this. They may act out, lash out. It might be just that they're frustrated themselves or other people for expecting them to be the same level as others, so they might be deemed sort of naughty. They might have issues with planning and direction as well. Next slide. So strengths that dyslexic people may possess relevant to your industry. Think outside the box, like a lot of neurodiverse people. They may bring fresh ideas. Even customers, they may make suggestions, say, have you thought about putting your suspicious items at the front of the store because they're more likely to sell and they're sort of popular, for example. A customer might say that, or they might say you ought to get some of those things in stock, some of those, whatever it is. Practical, a lot of people with dyslexia can be practical physically, so they might be able to build things better than others, use their hands, and not have to sort of write or read as much. And sort of, again, I'm saying reading and writing, not everyone with dyslexia will struggle with every one of these things. These are just examples. I do know a lot of people with dyslexia can be quite practical, sort of physically, but mentally there's also creating solutions, problem solving, innovative systems they could create. They could do stock organisation, really good thing. The space, the visual, they can see, oh, that stock can go there, that can go there, and you can fit them in, whereas someone with dyspraxia might really struggle with that. Visual thinkers, big picture ideas, pattern detection, so they might spot customer buying habits. So they might notice, they might be on the tills or just in the shop, they might be like, I've noticed these I don't know, can't think of, dishwasher tablets. These are selling a lot better than these other ones we used to have. I think we should get more of them in. Things like that. They might recognise customers from before and think, oh, that was James. He's been a few times now. He usually needs a bit of help with locating eggs. I don't really know, something like that. Goal orientated. Obviously, they may process things slower, but they might be able to get certain things done at speed. Again, some practical things or tasks. Creativity, like a lot of neurodiversity, they may bring skills that others don't possess. Next slide. Some of the struggles for dyslexic people in the retail industry. Taking customer notes. So if they've got to update some customer records or stock or something like that, and they've got to physically write it down, they may struggle with that. May struggle reading information from tills, so it may flash up on the screen saying you need to do this, and they have to read it a bit slower potentially. The customers might get angry. There might be a big queue. They might be saying, "Why are you taking ages? What's up with you?" Which obviously wouldn't be very nice and good for them. Blocking out external noises or people. If the store mute, I mean, this bothers me. Probably the autism side. If there's store music on, it's the same music that's being played over and over and over. It might be annoying. They might not be able to block out other customers or colleagues. So if they're trying to deal with a customer, someone's asking where a certain product is, then they can hear another customer talking in the background or another colleague talking. It may distract them. Communicating, if they've got to read off a screen like on a till or something like that. They may take longer to understand instructions or plans. And again, they might not be seen as intelligent by the peers just because they may have difficulties with one of the things we mentioned, reading, etc. They may have really scruffy handwriting, so they might be looked down on by the peers. Next bit. So, getting towards the end of it now, we're looking at the recruitment process of hiring and retaining your neurodiverse employees. So we've covered autism the last few days. You can, if you haven't watched it, you can look back, look at the replays. There's lots of useful information in there. So some of the things for autism may apply to these other conditions as well. But I've just listed a few for each condition. Again, we spent a couple of days on autism. We're getting all this in sort of one session, so you can't go too in depth with it. If you want to know more about your ADHD, dyspraxia, please get in touch. We can also always do some coaching sessions, training sessions, for individuals or for team training as well. So ADHD, application forms may bore them, and again, touched on this earlier, being bored can physically really bother you. They may see a long application form and think, I haven't got energy, patience, I just can't do that. So I'm not going to apply for that job, even if it's something I want to do. It might be, if they interviewed me here today on spot, I'd be able to pass the interview easily. Obviously that's not always the case, but some would say that. It's just I can't be bothered filling this application form, which is illogical, or too many questions in there. They may talk too much at interviews, so the interviewer may say, tell us a bit about yourself, and they may talk 5 minutes about themselves. They may need to do different tasks, so if you're in a store, could you let them do a bit of time on the tills, a little bit of time stacking shelves, talk to customers, if that's possible, and if they have to do all that and can do all that. There's ways of breaking it up. They might not be able to sit still, so if they're on the tills all day, that could be a struggle. They may struggle to concentrate and focus, so again, split up the task, give them a bit of a break. If you ask them questions, keep the questions to the point. If you give them too much information, they might not be able to retain it all, they might switch off from it. Dyspraxia, they may struggle using your equipment, let's say tills, stuff in the warehouse, using pallet trucks, certain tools, folding up them cardboard boxes you've got to do. They may get lost on the way to the interview, they may get lost around the building, they may be unable to set up props such as whiteboards. If you ask them to do a presentation and they've got to set up the whiteboard, they might struggle with that. Directions, if it's a big store, big warehouse, something like that, they may get lost there. Dyslexia, they may struggle with reading applications, they may fail at the first hurdle, like with ADHD, but for a different reason. They may just have all this information to read and think, I'll be here all day trying to read this because I can't process it all. But I can do the actual job. I can talk to people if I'm a customer service advisor or something. They may struggle with interview questions and need more processing time. They may struggle with public speaking if they've got to read off of something. And next bit. That brings us towards the end of day 3 for the Autism&Neurodiversity Workplace Masterclass for the retail sector. We're back tomorrow, day 4, Thursday. We are at a different time. We're an hour earlier, so we're at 5 o'clock. So please bear that in mind. So we'll be doing it at 6 for now, so an hour earlier tomorrow at 5 p.m. We're also here Friday through to Sunday. Again, if you can't catch everyone live, watch it in the group please, or on the YouTube channel. I'd like to thank everyone for viewing this, whether it's in person or in the future. It'll be 10 years from now, who knows? Who knows? But yeah, thanks everyone. Give us feedback if you want to as well, be much appreciated. We're going to end it there for today. We'll see you tomorrow at 5 o'clock. See you there.